All right, so now recording. I'm going to go back over what we just did. Actually, while you're doing that, I can go back over it. So
I'll be supposed to like times 2 times 3.
well, you have a calculator for that. I told you this is what you're doing, right? I already wrote it. That's what those little red lines. I'm about to do something real quick, so just try to do it, and then I'm going to go through it. So I started the recording late. So what we did for bell work, what we did for bell work was that we said, what's a faster way to add 3 20 times? We said that multiplication was a shortcut to that. Anytime you're adding the same number over and over and over again, you can just use multiplication. So that would just be 20 times 3. We also said if you're adding the same variable over, x plus x plus x plus x, or y plus y, or whatever, that's still multiplication. You just say if you're adding y 10 times, that's 10y, 10 times y. For number 2, we said, so what that really means is if you have a number in front of a variable, like the 5 in front of the x, that means this, but what it really just means is that you have 5 x's. So a simple way to think of the number in front of a variable, we said, is really to just think of that's how many of the variable you have. It's not perfect. There are situations where that doesn't work perfectly, but for the most part, if you're struggling, especially, that's a pretty good thing to remember. Pretty good tool to use. Hold on just a second. We finish getting us caught up, and I'll come back to you guys. All right, so then we said we're doing example 5. Example 5 in the book pages. I'll show example 5 real quick. The McGraw-Hill is the book pages, so it's page 220, example 5. So all I did is I took this and I copied it over. The question is, or not the question is, they want us to change that to standard form. So I wrote the different, so here are the different forms. This was the point slope we just learned. This was the slope intercept that we've done the most work with. And this is standard form. So that's what we're trying to change to right now. Oh, actually, no, we're going to change it to slope intercept first. Even though that's not what the example is, we skipped that last lesson. We were supposed to do it, we did. So we're changing it to standard form actually first. I'm sorry, slope intercept form. So we're changing it to this first. And then we will change to this next. All right, so you see right there, we're going to change this equation that's in the little rectangle, changing it into this format. Then we'll do the standard format. All right, so I'm caught up on that. Well, then you got to wait till I finish this. You got to see this. This is the whole point of the lesson. All right, so I caught the recording up. What do you get for the top one? So again, I'm doing the little line. Little red line is that top negative 2/5 times x. What do you get? Negative 2/5 x, right? You just put them together. When you combine, like multiply two numbers, well, a number and a variable, we're not really doing any math. Like I told you can never combine a number and a variable, and sometimes kids think, well, yeah, we do. We just took those two numbers and we combined them into negative 2/5 x. Well, we didn't combine them. That's still two separate numbers. We know one of the numbers, negative 2/5 x. We don't know one of them. We didn't combine them into one number. We just wrote them next to each other without the multiplication symbol. So again, it still holds true that you cannot combine a number and a variable because we don't know what the variable is. We can only combine like term variables. Did I have time on it? Huh? I didn't look at it. I was just. So that's what I write. I write the first term. What do I get? You should have done this in your calculator. We'll see if you're remembering how to use your calculator. What'd you get for the second one?
I tried to do it and see what I got.
It is, but that's a weird thing, and that's why I'm asking.
But that's what
if you know how to use calculator. So that is the correct answer. Do you know what number that is?
115.
No. Close. Well, not 115. Get it? You get 3 numbers or 2? All right, so here's what you need to learn. Again, a lot of this is just even if you don't really remember this, learning to use that calculator might save your butt next year. You have got to pass the math requirement, the testing requirement, not just the number of credits and all that stuff. I don't know how that just magically popped up. Being able to properly use fractions, you know you guys aren't good at doing it manually by hand. So being able to use a calculator that apparently they're going to allow you to use for the whole test, because you used to have a day where you couldn't use it, might very well get you through those fraction problems. So I guess I'll just do it down here and I'll erase it. So I think most of you had the answer, but I want to tell you how to interpret it. You take the number 2, this is what you're putting into your calculator if you had no clue. So you press that, and then the next step is, the arrow means the next thing you do is you press, sometimes, by the way, the A is capital in case they give you a different letter, but it'll always be ABC.
Write that down too.
Well, you did it right. So I mean, you can write it if you want to, but you did it correctly. But I just need to tell you how to interpret that number you got. So then after you press the ABC button, you press the bottom number. Once you press the bottom number, you're done inputting the fraction, even if it's a different kind of fraction, which I'll show you what I mean in a minute. So now I would just say, oh, so you would see something that looks like this. So at this point, you should have seen that in the calculator. Now, because it's a negative 2/5, you needed to press that button. So once you press that button, it puts a negative in front. Don't ever use the subtraction sign to try to make something negative. You can get lucky because adding a negative is the same thing as subtracting. So sometimes you get lucky. You'll never get lucky, though, when it's multiplication. Well, I should say never, but pretty much never. So it'll always mess you up there. So you should see this. This is negative 2/5 in a calculator. And I think it'll look that way in any algebra calculator they give you. That little symbol thing between the numbers. So now that you've done that, then you just say, well, I can't put times X in the calculator. So that one you would just write that. But for this one, you would say times 3. I got to kind of change my arrow. So then you hit time. I'm going to still use the dot, even though it's not a dot on the calculator. Times 3. And then equals. And what you guys got was a number, I think, what all of you got. That, and that. And negative, thank you. And see, so the good news about this is it takes care of the negative. You never have to worry again. So not only does it take care of fractions, it takes care of negatives. It will also take care of simplifying. So if you get a fraction that could be simplified down, it'll do that for you just automatically. So it takes care of 3 big things that you guys struggle with. Here's what this number is. That's 1 and 1/5. So if there are ever 3 numbers there, this is a whole number. Then the last 2 numbers are the fraction. I want you to do one more thing. That's just how they show a fraction in a calculator. Because they can't do a sideways symbol.
Fraction, 1 fraction, 1.
What's this right here? That's 1. Well, 1 and 1/5. So if you think of a pizza, this is 1 whole pizza and then a 5th of a pizza. So it's not 2. It wouldn't be 2 slices, but it'd be
1 and 1.
It'd be not a half. 1/5 is not 1/2.
You know.
Yeah. So here's what you can also do on those calculators. Look, actually, I got to grab one because I don't remember where I think it's right above that same ABC button. So if you don't still have this up there, the -1 and 1/5 thing, redo that process and get that on the screen. Or if you didn't get it the first time, redo that process, get that on the screen. Or you can just input it. The way you input a number like this is you would type in 1. Oh, get the negative. You would type in 1 ABC, then another 1, then you go to the top number, then ABC, and then the 5. So you can put those into the calculator also if you start with a number like that. But once you have this on the screen, so I want you to have that. Does everybody have that? Does anybody not have that? So now look at your calculator. In the upper left, there's a button that says Shift. I want you to hit that upper left button that says Shift. It is. Hit that Shift button. Now, if you look at the ABC button, right above it in yellow letters, it's got like a D/C. We're gonna hit, now that we've hit Shift, we're gonna hit the ABC button again, but it will give us that function that's above. So hit Shift, and I'm gonna write it as the DC button, which is actually not the button, it's what's above it. You should now get just two numbers with a little symbol in between. You should get this. It's hit Shift and then the ABC button again. Look above the ABC button, there's a little gold. You get a fraction that is now an improper fraction. It's the same number, it just changes the form. It takes it from being a mixed fraction to just an, I think it's called an improper fraction. Yeah, that's really like it. It's just got a number up top that's bigger than the bottom number. So that's why if you have 6/5, the top is bigger than the bottom, so it actually means you have more than one. The number bigger than one, although technically it's negative. I keep forgetting that. So that one button, including the function above it, takes care of a whole lot of stuff that you guys struggle with. Just to give you another, this has nothing to do with the problem. Oh, so now that I come up with that answer, I'm going to write it as -6/5. That's, I believe, more likely the way you're going to see stuff on your multiple choice district tests and your EOC next year. I think they keep it as, again, I think it's called an improper fraction. I don't believe they give it to you, but if they ever do give it to you like that, you could just input that using the ABC button. Then you'll get something that looks like that with 3 letters, and then do that Shift flip button. You don't have to do math with it to flip it. You could just do Shift and then hit ABC, and it'll flip it from this into just 2 numbers. And then you can use that to try to find the answer. We'll practice, because that is something that can really help you. So we'll maybe practice that, and then I'll just give you a couple of fraction problems. So now that I have -6/5, that's my second answer. I just write -6/5, which now looks like subtract 6/5, which is the same thing. Adding -6/5 is the same thing as subtracting 6/5. And that's now your point slope form, because we have y subtract a number and then something times x subtract a number. That's point slope. All you have to do now, it's a lot of stuff to erase. So I'm just going to get rid of the calculator stuff. Is anybody still writing? Hopefully you're getting this, because you know it's a lot, but this is what you're going to see Monday. But more importantly, it really truly is stuff that could wind up letting you pass those standardized tests that you need to pass to graduate. Yeah, we're back to Mondays. Yep. And it's only on what we did last class and today, so it's not a lot of stuff. So now if I want to change this, so we've got this is all we can do. We can't combine anything else. That is point slope form, what you did last class. But if I want to change it to this, really not that bad. If I want to get y by itself, that's the only difference really, is that y needs to be by itself. How I got to get rid of the subtract 1. How do I get rid of subtract 1? Like, how would I get rid of that in any problem if I was trying to get rid of that? Sway, what do you think? Well, we wouldn't subtract it, because -1 subtract 1 is -2. -1 subtract 1 is negative. Didn't go up, it actually got smaller. -2 is smaller than that. Because if you're in debt $1, that's -1. If I then tell you to give me another $1, you're in debt $2, because you can't pay me because you're already in debt. So that you're being more in debt means you have less money. Well, almost this last step. Manual. How do we get rid of subtract 1? Opposite. Remember, opposite, opposite, opposite. If I do +1 there, then, so now in your calculators, here's more calculator practice. Do this. On this side, you also add +1. So in your calculators, do -6/5 +1. So if you do that real quick, Keyshawn, then you're good to go. So
+1.
this just gives me y. So now I have y by itself over here. The -2/5 x doesn't change. Changed the 6/5 to negative. It's got to be -6/5 +1. And you get, again, all in your calculator. Don't have to know how to do any of it. Again, don't even have to change the format, nothing. No, it should be -6. Should be two numbers as your hand, like a number and then that little kind of backwards L thing, and then another. Should be a fraction. No, not 1 1/5. No, no, don't hit that first. You got to put the fraction in. Remember, put the fraction in first, the number. So you've got to put 6/5 in first, then flip it to negative. Have to have, and this is the way it works on pretty much all the algebra calculators. Got to put the number in first, then flip it to negative. So now just say +1. 1, you don't need to make into a fraction. You can say +1.
Negative.
There we go. So you should have got, so after you, so I'll just tell you, you hit it 6, and you do this, A, B, C, then you put in your 5, then you put in your negative, and then you just say +1. You should have done all of that. And then you would get something on your calculator that looks like this, -1. I believe it should look like that. Is that how it looked? It looks like that. Negative and then 1 backwards L5. That, and you have to understand that is -1/5, which just can be written as just subtract 1/5. And you're done. There's only one step. Changing it from point slope. Remember, anytime you're trying to get it, like they say, solve for a variable, you're just trying to get the variable by itself. So if you want to go ahead, Keyshawn, you trade your phone out. So what I want you to do, they don't, since we skipped this last time, I don't have a, actually they probably do have a practice problem, but I'm just gonna have you do that whole process. So you should have all that copied down. I'm about to get rid of it. Buddy's still writing. Done? All right, so I'm getting rid of all of that. I'm just gonna change some of these numbers real quick. Won't even be that different. We'll just kind of reverse those. And now let's change this. 5. And we'll put, what do we want to put here? I want you to practice fractions, so actually I'm going to write a fraction in there. But we'll make it a easier fraction than the 7/5. Let's make it negative. So -7/5. So I want you to go through that whole process. Use the one you just did. If when we go through this, I haven't been. I'll try to start doing it. Probably a good idea to write a little like number next to each thing we do each time we do a piece and say like step 1, step 2, because when you go back to look at it, you might not remember what order it was in. So step 1, I'll get you started. Step 1 is this process right there. Should have written in what that means if you didn't know. I'm not going to tell you what that means, but that would be the first thing you would need to do. After that, I think maybe you can work your way through it. Who came in? Present. Yep. Hold on just a second. Actually, you know what? I'll change it afterwards because I'm recording. Well, which one? Well, it's not my line. It may be part of the answer.
No, like the second stores to do.
Well, there should be probably a negative in there somewhere, because remember, this is a negative 7/5, so I don't think you took that into account. You'll have to be careful when you use the calculator. So, Charles, go. On the book page, you can copy everything down. Yes, I feel like I'm gonna need to move you right here. You were pretty attentive before, not so much lately. So if I need to move you here, I will. So you show me you can work there. I know. And get it better. This will keep you awake from us right now. Yeah. And you've been like this every day. You've not been getting wrong. So then you don't think you get it. Don't get it like you should be. This is one where you're not spending a bunch of time on this. I'm not like I'm starting to lean toward no more retakes. It's like nobody cares at all about first food. If you care about your grades at all, you're just like, I can take it from. And that's starting to drive me crazy. So if that continues, we won't do any more retakes. We'll get one shot. I'm wasting my time going to grade and quizzes twice. You guys aren't worried about quizzes. Well, what you did should be a nice round simple number.
Did that? I did some the 7 things. You'll have it's fine.
First of all, it should have been negative, so it should. Nope. Number first, number. Nope. Put the whole fraction in first. There you go. This now change. Now you would say what? No, that's not plus. That's probably real. Those red lines don't mean addition. You told me what they meant earlier. The one told me. Should you? That's wake up.
I asked you to do that. You said
Oh, Keyshawn just got.
do that. Then I'll do that. I asked.
I literally drew them in and said that's your first thing.
No, I asked you to multiply and the other. Don't we do that? He's like, no.
Are you saying that? I mean, I drew those in for you because first thing. Always, you got parentheses, unless you can combine what's in parentheses. Like if you could do math in here, you wouldn't need that stuff. But I can't do anything with X and 5. So I have to do it. That's the only thing I can do. So, I'm gonna hold you for now, so we get to the point where you've practiced a little bit, and I think you're in pretty good shape. We haven't even gotten the lesson. The lesson's not any difficult. There's one piece.
Oh. I keep going to never talked about this. Tuesday, if I'm able to go, can you give Miss Watson my test I didn't take yet? And then I can take it to Julie.
I don't know. Let me give her the test. I can give her practice problem. Like what you do that, right?
Well, I still need to take it. I know I couldn't take it because I had to do that. I thought I could do it.
You ever taken it? Never, ever had any student ever in my room. Sometimes there's things that I tell them in class that I need to be able to tell them.
I'm going to fall at lunch.
Any lunch? I mean, just tell me ahead of time, make sure I'm here, but what lunch do you have? Oh, I'm always here, not kids, so yeah, we always have that. And you just sit over and all these stuff at those chairs over there.
But you're gonna test it, what you said? Yeah. You did that stuff? We did that Monday, that's in 30 days.
Yeah, when you guys start working, I'll worry about how fast I grade your tests. Act like that's all I have to do in my life is grade your tests.
This is a white.
Oh, I think she would.
So this is a white needle.
No. You should get a nice round number for the last number in that final step. So, and remember, once you finish that, you're changing it into this format. That's actually the final step. So, just doing you're changing it into that. So you have to do that last step. And it looks like we're going to be pushing the no phones technology stuff back for a while. I really don't think you guys look have a phone out. Just can't do it. It don't work. Although the person that breaks that rule does work. You guys watch me do it again. You need to write more down if you're not remembering how to do this. Well, you need to write it down again. We're about to do it. I'll give you guys another. Is anybody even working? Anybody doing anything? Think which way it is. You are, and you are too. Well, you need to see me do it, so. And I know Keyshawn, you said that you're working. All right. But you better be working because you never touch phones.
Yes.
That's right there. That's the easiest part of the phone.
I haven't been iPhone.
Figure it out. And even though you eventually you catch up, because I have to go back and redo the lesson, that takes my time away from other people who should have been paying attention the first time. So I'm not going to keep doing that. If you don't get it the first time, you can watch the video and figure it out. Over this. Hang on, let me go through this one, and then I'll probably, even though we have another part of the lesson, although that's just guidance, that's not anything or anything, so I don't know. I may still make you stay in for the next one, let you leave it in. And then you can just take your stuff on. Was somebody waiting for the bathroom? Charles was, but then you stayed. You waiting?
Oh, I mean,
Huh?
Yes.
Where'd she go?
It's
Charles. And what? I'm gonna ask.
again.
You can't wait?
Miss Vernon. You can't, because I did it with her.
I'm gonna ask her how well you've been doing.
She gonna say I've been doing good. I've been doing fine. No, I deserve some food.
Like, go. Not right now. You gotta come back later. You gotta stop coming in the middle of my classes. In between classes. Go. No. And, one, you're always out of class. No, I'm still gonna let you get food, but you can't interrupt classes. You can't interrupt classes anymore. You do it. It'd be one thing if you only did it once every once in a while. You come in 2 or 3 times a day. Yeah, that's too much. Too much. I mean, if you're gonna come in all the time, you need to come in between classes. I don't care if you do it in between classes. Are you still working? Anybody? Are you still working on it? When you get back. All right. So here's your process. Again, if you didn't just write it down, we just did this same exact thing. Nothing is different. So I'm not doing it a third time. You're on your own. And this is exactly what you'll do on the quiz. I need to multiply on that side. Why subtract 3 if I already have given it to you like this? Now, sometimes you may have to plug numbers in from a point. Like if I would have given you the point 3 comma -5, that's where those numbers would have come from. So there's still that other piece you did last class you got to remember how to do. But in this case, it's made pretty easy. So now I need to write its own separate little problem over here. -7/5 times x, that's the first little red line. -7/5 times 5. And I figure out what those two answers are, and then that becomes my next line. Well, this, which somebody didn't know how to do, is just that. Just put them together. There's nothing you can do with that. Now I do that in a calculator. Did anybody do it and get an answer? Oh, -7. Yes. If you didn't get -7, you need to do that again. And calculator doesn't save you if you don't know how to input the stuff. Should have gotten that. So try it again. See if you get -7. So you do the fraction first. 7, ABC, 5. That's how you input a fraction. Top number, AB. You can think of that little line as the ABC button, or it's really divide. And then the 5, and then flip it to negative, and then times 5. Some people are adding the 5. Red lines mean multiplication, remember? So now I just write those two things for the right side of the equation. -7/5 x, and then -7, which is, becomes subtract 7. So the only other thing you do to get it into that format, and this is not, if I give you the numbers in the equation, this is not a difficult problem. So you need to do some practice, and there's going to be some examples you can do in the practice problems. I just need to get y by itself. I do the opposite math where the y is. Getting y by itself means I got to get rid of that subtract 3. Well, if I do subtract 3 there, make sure, I'm sorry, if I do plus 3, make sure you do it with the 7. Don't try to add it with the x. This doesn't have an x, so I wouldn't add it with x. Remember, this is x's. You got to think of that as x's anyway. That's not x's. That's a number. Numbers add with numbers, combine with numbers. X's combined with x's, or variables combined with variables. So now if you do the math on that, y is now by itself, which is what we wanted. We still had the -7/5 x, but now we have subtract 4. I expect you to be able to do that, especially if I've already given you the numbers in the rating. This last class, you didn't even have that. You had to plug the numbers in and then do everything. But just to save you time on some of the problems, I'll probably give you one where the numbers are already. All right, so the last, again, that's not even the whole lesson. The last thing you have to know how to do. Nothing changes in the beginning. This first step, getting to here, is the same. But we need to now change it into a different, is anybody still writing anything? Just gonna erase. So instead of changing it into that format, we're going to change it into that standard format. So all that really means is we're going to get the x and the y on this side, and all the numbers are going to go to the right. So we're going to still need to get rid of the number that's over here. It's just we're going to take the x term, and we're going to do the opposite math with it, which in this case would have been plus, which we'll do in a second. That'll move that over here, and then we'll be done. So instead of just doing one thing, you have to do two things. That's it. But this step will still be the same. You'll still add or subtract, depending on what you need to do. You'll still get rid of that number to get it over there. Then you'll just have to do a second step where you get rid of this so that it moves over there. So if we were going to change that, we would still, actually, we'd still be right there. So I would rewrite that whole problem and say this is standard, moving to standard form. So copy that, do all of that over again, but now this section of your notes should say change to standard form. There's only just one additional step. Standard form. I mean, it's in your book on that example right there too. I think actually this one is not the example because I changed it, but you have another example that you can complete on your own as well. They've probably done most of the work they normally do. And then after we finish this last step, I'll tell you which practice problems will be just like what's on the quiz. So go ahead when you're done copying, just kind of pencil down, changing to standard form. All those steps are going to be the exact same. You still need to get rid of the parentheses. You still need to get rid of the number where the y is, like the number that's after the y, subtracted or added. That's a different form. So we did before, what we did was slope intercept form. This is because this is a different type of problem. I didn't change the original problem here, but we're taking this now, and instead of changing into that y equals mx plus b, we're going to change it into that. I just didn't create a new problem. We'll probably do a new problem. I'll give you one to practice on your own in a second. That's brand new. Got it all copied. Looks like everybody's got it copied. Hope nobody's on their phones because I feel like somebody is. All right, so actually, I feel like a couple people are. One really doesn't know that I know, but I do. So just because I don't say I'm seeing it doesn't mean I'm not seeing it. The only step that we add to this, I mean, again, this is really not that difficult if you practice it. I'm not saying you can get the very first one right. If you practice it, there's just one additional step that we add. We now, after we got the numbers, got rid of the numbers here, we need to get rid of the x's here. And by getting rid of them here, that forces them to come over here. So to get rid of that x, I do opposite math. How do I get rid of negative 7/5 x? The opposite of that. Nope. Hey, look who's showing up. It is late time. Add it. Exactly right. Just like we got rid of the subtract 3 by adding 3, we're going to get rid of negative 7/5 x by adding 7/5 x. Perfect. Good job. Well, if I do that on one side, I have to do it on the other side. Hey, don't be scared. Don't be scared in life. So now we can never, just like we can't combine something with a variable and a number, we also can't combine two different variables into something. I don't know what that number is. I don't know what that number is. That's the definition of a variable. I don't know what it is. If I don't know what they are, how can I possibly make them into one thing? So all I can do is write this. And then I just have the subtract or -4 on the right. That, it's actually not standard form, but I'm fine with that for now. Standard form, technically, you would never have a fraction in it. The a, the b, and the c are always integers.
That was your y.
Where?
The 7. But the 7 got wrong.
Oh, yes, yes, sorry. Hey, you're paying attention. Good job. See, everybody else probably wrote 7.
I'm not.
So, yeah, what Charles noticed is I don't know why I did it, but I don't even know what I was thinking. Why, and again, this is the kind of thing that unfortunately I see on quizzes. I have to mark it wrong. Y should be Y. I, for some reason, I guess because there was a 7 in that, I just saw a 7 and wrote 7. Not like a drilling. I don't know. Who knows what goes on in the room? So that's your technically for now that I'll leave that. You would never see standard form with a fraction in it. So the good news about standard form is you never have to deal with fractions. A, B, and C are always integers. That's just the definition of standard form. If I give you a problem, or when I give you a problem like this on the quiz, I'll make sure there's no fractions in it. So the only fractions would really be changing it to that other form, the slope intercept form, which all you have to do is just add that and then you're done. That is standard. So actually here, we'll write this. You want to make this note, it's not a bad idea. This is point slope form. This is a slope intercept form. We have all three forms right here. What now? Yeah, I'll do this. That's point slope, that whole thing. This is slope intercept. And then this final one, although technically it's not, because that's not an integer, it's a fraction, but close enough. That would be standard form. So you have all three of them. You've started with one, and you moved it in the other two. And theoretically, you should know how to go from any form into one of the other ones. Now, going from this to that's tougher, or going from this to that is tougher. But the order we did it, starting with that and going to those two, isn't that bad. I'm not going to make you do it. So here are your practice problems. Turn to, you don't have pages, I'll just put them up. Was somebody else waiting? All right, so you can trade your phone out and go while I put the pages up. And I'm going to give you the problems you need. Actually, well, I think it's all in the same lesson. Yeah, so this is what we did last class, although a lot of you didn't finish. Oh, actually, it's all on the same. So now we're adding. So here's, I'll tell you in case you weren't here. So on page 2, I think that's 213. Oh no, that's 225. Sorry. So I don't have it. So page 225. So you can either write this down or you can just circle what you need to do on 225. So now on 225, you are doing 1 through 11. Should have already done, I think it was 1 through 7. Page 2, are you on page 225? No, you're not supposed to see those. Do you not have the pages? All right. Well, I'll zoom in so the people that for some reason don't have their pages can copy it down. All right, so page 225, 1 through what I say, 11, 1 through 11. And that gets you through. It does have some problems where you change it into slope intercept form. And then it looks like the next page will have the other ones. Hmm? There's probably a look over to the left. There's probably a better one that has 8 graphs on it.
I need 3.
Hmm?
I only need 3.
But then you just had one full size. I don't care what you use. You can use the little ones if you want. And then 15 through 20. Yeah, I mean, the other ones are good. Like, I don't know that I'll use them, but that's probably what the district will use. It's more math since I don't give you more than 20 or 30 minutes on quiz. It would take a lot longer to do. You should be able to do any of these though. The only difference on these is you have to solve for the slope first, then you just can do everything else. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and run over now. So they just started practicing. Here's what they're practicing here. If they have their pages, if they don't have their pages, I'm gonna put it up on the screen and they can copy it down. Actually, I'll have to put it in another one so you can see all of them at once. And it tells you which example problem the problems match up with, remember? So like above the problems, it would say example 1 or example, I don't remember what numbers did, but example 3, example 6. So you can go back to that example where you should have worked some stuff out. No, it's all in your book pages. Yep. Next time we'll probably have to tear out because this is page 225 right now. So the next lesson we'll have to tear pages out. Wait, actually, hold on. I already have the other. problems. Yeah.
So you. I can't. I didn't know what it's at. Top side.
X subtract 16. And then I don't remember what you were changing those into standard form, right? I think that looks pretty good. Yeah, let me get all of this on one page for everybody, and then I'll. It's up on the board right in front of you. You should be able to see it. Over there in red, the bottom one I just wrote, page 225, I think.
I'm here.
I'm gonna have to put 11 up there too. So let me go ahead and copy 11 through whatever as well. Voila. What does voila mean? What language is it? That's what it means. It means, pretty sure it means here it is. It's French. So you know French. Didn't even know it. You didn't even know you knew French. Un peu? That means a little in French. That's true. That is correct. Bonjour. Oui, that means yes. All right, so I'll have to zoom out, so I don't know how large these will be. If you don't have them, hopefully you can see. Certainly you can see most. Actually, I can make that a little bit smaller, and then, whoa. So now let's scroll up. Ah, so close. All right, so I can get 4 through 20 on there. So you should have been working on the other ones the other day where we actually did that and then we graphed. Let me run over there real quick.
Right here's